Howdy folks, Little John in the brewery, tasting day. Today we're going to taste the kit rice lager, which was done with the Black Rock Pilsner blonde kit, and this is also the warm versus cold experiment with the S189 lager yeast. So the two things we'll be testing on today. So while we're getting ready for that, let me just give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thanks guys, your support's much appreciated. If you're interested in being a Patreon, hit the link down the bottom, have a look, see what it's about. To the subscribers, thank you. And again, if you're not a subscriber, hit the link down there in the corner. If you like this video, hit the like button as well as we go. Anyway, we're on to these fellas. So, what was it? Black Rock Pilsner Blonde kit, made up with a can of the Black Rock ultralight malt. Now I'll put a link up to the brew day vid, so you can go back and have a look at what happened. But added to the malt was, we did the basic kit, did the Pilsner and the malt, mixed it up, split it, and then added a jar of rice malt syrup to each one. Well, actually, I said I added both jars of the rice malt syrup and then split it. So either way, so equivalent full batch was the 1 can of ultralight malt, so 1.5 kilo I believe it is, and kilo malt. We also steeped some hops. We boiled 25 grams of SARS for 45 minutes and 20 grams of lemon drop for 10 minutes. Now this fella's been sitting here in the garage since it was bottled on the 16th of July, so it's a month old. The garage has been cooler than normal. It's only been sitting around 12 degrees. So these haven't carved up as much as I would have liked. I did put them in the fermenting fridge. Well, actually, that's going to show up or not, but that's actually reasonably carved. Which the carbonation's reasonable, not too bad. So that's not good. So a month old. So what we did, one batch went into the ferment fridge, 1 pack of S189, just pitched dry. I didn't rehydrate or anything like that, just pitched it dry, and it went into the ferment fridge at 11 degrees. The other half sat here on the bench in the garage at ambient temperature, which at the time was sort of sitting between 16 and 20 degrees. And same thing, 1 pack S89, and there it sat. Original gravity 1056, and the ambient version had hit gravity obviously well before the lager temp did. Well, the 3rd of July, which in this case was for 7 days, maybe 8 days in, that lager had dropped to 1030. The one on the bench had dropped to 1015. So big difference. They finished. Final gravity was 10-12 on both. Both finished at 10-12, so exactly the same, which gives us a final gravity of final alcohol in the bottle with carbonation, which was 2/3 of the carb drop per bottle, 6.2% alcohol. So they're fairly strong, which is a lot stronger than what I would have liked. But anyway, it is what it is. Now, I gave the brother a bottle of this. He was here yesterday, and he took it home, and he was at Mum's place, and he drank it apparently this morning. And he said it was smooth, and he liked it. It's poured in our head. Now, they smell like you'd expect it, sort of a rice lager to smell. There's possibly a little more fruitish nose on this one. So I said, this is the warm ferment. And the yeast comparison is more what I'm interested in, more so than the actual beer itself. I do know there's a lot of viewers on the channel who are interested on how the actual beer itself comes out with the rice. So anyway, my nose is not great at the moment, courtesy of having to wear masks at work all the time, but it's a typical rice lagery sort of a smell. Sweet malt. It's a little bit of that stars note there. Probably, a hint of the lemon drop, not much. Okay, now, again, these are only a month old. I certainly wouldn't normally be drinking this sort of beer, or wouldn't be recommending drinking this in a month, but we wanted to get an initial video out reasonably quickly. It is reasonably clean. Okay, there is a little bit of difference between the two, but I'll work through, try and describe exactly what that is. But there's nice, for the beer itself, there's some nice notes from the hops. There's a little bit of sweetness. Now I had seen comments about using the malt syrup where people said it left their beer quite sweet. And I was a bit concerned exactly how that was going to turn out, but looking at the gravities, 1056 down to 1012, that's a good attenuation. It's probably somewhere in the 77% range, so maybe even 78, 1056 to 1248. Yeah, so it's attenuated decent. Okay, I'm not picking up any twang as such. There's a little bit of that kit, character there. You can sort of taste it, but overall that beer's reasonably clean. The malt's nice. There's some nice hop effect without being jumping out. Obviously didn't want it jumping out and didn't want it being a hop driven beer. It is, you know, it's a lager, it's malt driven, and the malt is playing its part. The hops are just there, you know, adding some little bit of interest. Okay, now this has got notes which are pushing into the unpleasant side of things. Now the only thing that can be causing that is that warmer ferment. So it's fruitier, but as I say, it's not a hop fruity, it's that yeast fruity. Okay, and this one, the warm ferment, the beer itself is a little thinner, sort of slightly lighter mouthfeel, it's a little thinner. Wouldn't go into as far as saying the hollow, it's not hollow, but it is thinner. But there is a stronger, more pronounced flavour that isn't pleasant. It's not overpowering, it's not huge, and I could see that a lot of brewers, if they're just drinking that on their own, would go, okay, well that's a reasonable, you know, an acceptable lager made from a kid. You know, and just on its own, without thinking too much about what's going in and just drinking it, it really, you know, it does come on those sort of flavours that you sort of expect from a commercial beer. And I think without analysing it too hard, you go, oh, that's not too bad. But at the end of the day, I'm here to be critical. Yeah, so that's definitely a little bit more body, but none of that edgy flavour that's in that one. So they clearly got a different flavour. They are very similar. I'll give you that. They are very similar. But these people who want to try and say that you can brew a lager at lager temperatures, in this case 11 degrees, and compare it to a lager brewed at somewhere around, you know, 16, 17, 18 degrees and get the same flavour. Yeah. No, sorry. If you're really doing that, then you've got no place to be fucking tasting beers and critiquing them and commenting on, because that is very clearly, despite the similarities, very different taste, very different feel. That being said, which one is one better than the other? That would be a very personal thing. It really would. And that's going to come down to personal taste. As always, yeah, as all things beer always generally tend to do. That is pretty much what you're expecting to get, sort of style. As I said, these are 4 weeks old. I would much prefer that these beers were at least 8 weeks old. I always say 9 weeks as for a kit beer, and I will definitely be revisiting these. I've still got 2 bottles sitting here. will revisit these in another month or so to see how they age. But yeah, but really, as I said, they're both drinkable. If you're a kit brewer, that's what you're brewing, and you don't mind your rice lagers, that sort of style, definitely, I think this is a recipe definitely worth looking at and playing with. There is an amount of sweetness there which at this point could be contributed to the syrup, the malt, but I can't say for sure just at the moment. But it is a sweetness that sort of is a little bit unusual. It's not quite your typical malt sweetness, and given that it's a Pilsner can and an ultra light malt, I wouldn't expect the sweetness that I'm getting from these. Now, just on that, I'm gonna say that I'm really thinking that this Black Rock Pilsner, it was done with the ultra light, with the malt, without the rice lager, with his hop schedule, would make quite a nice Pilsner. I think that sweetness would drop out. The sweetness that is there, I think what I'm tasting is possibly coming from that sugar malt, from the rice malt. But I can't say for sure. But I'm thinking the base that we've used on this beer is solid. So particularly if you're looking for a nice light Pilsner with some flavour, look at that base, the Black Rock Blonde with the ultra light malt. I said there's SARS and lemon drop there. They're working quite nicely. They're not overpowering. They're not being lost. They're contributing enough. And I said I'd really like to see how they go without that rice malt in there. And obviously the alcohol's going to come down to a more reasonable sort of a level. 6.2 is certainly quite high. 44. Yeah, it adds up. So right. Can I say that the warm lager yeast ferment is a bad idea? Possibly not. I would prefer to be drinking that one. So for me, the lager yeast at lager temp has produced a better beer. But some people would find that, I said a lot of people are going to find nothing wrong with that. If you knew no better, if you hadn't done them side by side, if that was what you brewed, you batch and you open that and you had to go, you go, okay, yeah, that's alright. And again, with the malt in there, I'm not sure exactly if that's as clean as it could be. There's definitely a difference, but I really, at this point in time, I really can't say that doing the lager yeast at a warmer temperature has produced a bad beer. I certainly can't, at this point I certainly can't say not to do it. I may need to revisit this, and as we've seen and I've talked about, I've got a whack of kit beers coming up, a few more lagers and sort of things. So I will definitely look at redoing this with another brew, so I can get a second look at it, because this is obviously only one. And I'd also again like to look at this in another 4 to 6 weeks time to see what difference that actually makes once this beer is settled and aged a little bit, and I can really look and assess what that flavour difference is, because I do have a slight feeling that weird little flavour that's in this one is going to become more evident and more undesirable as these beers condition. I think these two are going to become more different with a little bit of time. But I've got to say, for now, 4 weeks in the bottle, that recipe works. It's a good recipe. It's good. If you're into the style, give it a crack. Definitely worth an effort. So, I'm going to wrap up. If you've got any questions, any comments, stick them down the bottom. Have you tried the lager yeast at warmer temperatures? What do you think? Do you like it? Does it work for you? Do you prefer it the other way? Whichever. Like I said, if you're not subscribed to Little John, hit the button down there in the corner, get subscribed, come along for the ride. Like I said, that's what we do. We brew beer, we play around with things, we test it, we assess it, we work out what's good, what doesn't, what works, what's going to make your beer better. Patrons, cheers. Again, if you're interested, the link's down the bottom. Hit the link down the bottom, find out what's involved with Patreon, what extra benefits there are for you. Maybe it's the right thing for you. If not, all good. Until I see you again, we're brewing beer, talking beer, or drinking beer. Good brewing.